Greetings, everyone. This is Grandmaster Amin Ra. I'm coming back on, and I wanted to do another show here today, a quick one about the 7 propaganda lies about Africa. Now, recently I was put on some WhatsApp groups, and like 3 of them. I was just shocked at the level of conversation that was going on. The discussions were almost 90% of the discussion was on propaganda lies about Africa. And I just said, let me get on here and I wanted to talk about this really quick because if we don't get ourselves mentally correct, all of this thing about coming to Africa and doing things in Africa and being part of Africa, it's never going to happen for a lot of people who could really benefit from looking into Africa. Because I've had people here tell me that they can't come to Africa until Africa get a strong military like the U.S. And who got a military like the U.S. anywhere in the world? You know, America spends more money on this military than the next 25 countries combined. So, just tell me that you don't want to come to Africa. Don't just give out reasons for outrageous reasons. Things that you know that ain't gonna never happen, just to say that's where I'll come, but until the Africans go, put a man on the moon, that's when I'll come to Africa. No, this is mental nuts. And I just have to come out and put this out there really quick about this because I'm looking in these chat rooms and I mean, my goodness, like 80% of the information that's being talked about is people keep putting on these propaganda sound bites, and Africa got corruption. This kind of thing is a sound bite. How? I don't know. And then the other part of it is, and this is the most important, is that this is old propaganda. This propaganda, some of it is like 20, 30 years old. So I want to come up here and explain this to the people. Now, my name is Amin Ra. I've been living in Kenya 22 years. And so when people come talking about there's 1 million Kenyan girls on drugs in Kenya, I have to step forward and say, look, man, that's nonsense. Because the African won't talk, he won't say, he won't come, he's not the one to come and speak out in a way that we as Black Americans can really get the point. So I want to start this off with 7 propaganda lies that we need to get rid of and expose them for what they are. If we just think you can get rid of 90% of these, you can know that these 90% of these things you've been reading in the news or you've been hearing can't be true. And the first one is China is taking over Africa. Can we just think for just a moment? Really? China has a hidden plan to take over Africa? This is a soundbite. Somebody put that in the headlines, you're definitely going to read the story. But what about the facts? Both the president of Kenya that I've seen and the president of China both have been in the media numerous times saying nothing like that is the case. If you just know that Africa in 2000, they did a report in Economist magazine saying Africa is a hopeless continent. And then 7 years later, they wrote another article saying Africa rising. Now, what happened in that 7 years? Right after that, in the same year that the article was written, in the year 2000, the Chinese came together and made an agreement with African countries that they would fund them and help them build up their infrastructure, which was pretty much lacking because the IMF Bank and the World Bank had been doing predatory loans against the African countries to the point where they couldn't even build their schools. Now, why would the Chinese do this in 2000 and yet not take over Africa yet in 2019? Keeping in mind that in 2017 or was it 18, all the African countries came back and renewed that 2000 agreement. So the African leaders don't know something that you know. I mean, if you're gonna say that, oh, China's gonna take over Africa, but the African leaders don't know that. But the African people don't know that. But you seem to know that. No, that's propaganda. Okay, it don't have no bearing. It don't have no evidence. Doesn't even make sense if you just investigate a little bit. But the problem with us, Black people in America, is that we are lazy-minded, and we'd rather speak out on sound bites like to show that we're intelligent because we're not going to do the hard work and do the research. So we look like a fool to somebody that got some intelligence. And I'm sorry, you look like a fool when you start talking about the Chinese going to take over Africa. You understand what I'm saying? You need to stop that. It doesn't even make no sense. These leaders are flying into China. The Chinese leaders are flying into Africa, doing mega deals in infrastructure development, not building casinos and large buildings for nothing. No, the Chinese are building infrastructure in Africa, and Africa is paying for it. So to think like China's going to take over Africa, you must understand that, today I got an updated version. Today, China is doing business with 65 different nations all around the world in their new Silk Road initiative. So please stop talking like that. You're just going to be asleep when they run you over. When America falls, you're going to be asleep. And you're going to be like, I didn't go to Africa because the Chinese was there. Ready, bye. Number two, African resources are being robbed and taken from them. Now, this might have been true in the 1800s, but in independent Africa, where these African countries have formed governments, they ain't going to let nobody take their resources. And then how do you get the resources, the vast resources of Africa? How is it going to be taken from the country? You got Africa got maritime laws. They got navies. How you going to pull up a big giant mega ship and then somebody's going to be snatching containers through the jungle, lifting them into the ship? How? There is nothing like moving goods without a container, 40 foot or 20 foot. So how? Where you going to get the port that's going to put them containers on the ship that you're stealing so much African resources that is making the country poor? It's nonsense. Ports in Nigeria, have you seen them? The new ports in Mombasa, have you seen them? That's how you bring goods and services back and forth between countries. Ain't nobody got no ship where it's taking tons of material that's not coming out to the port. Somebody would know. It'd be pictures all over the place. Where it go dock at? You understand what I'm saying? The rules of international trade surely prohibit that kind of nonsense where somebody can come out the jungle with some bunch of stuff and put on a big old ship. Nothing like that is happening. So to come and say that in this day and age that the African resources are being exploited, that's nonsense. That's one. Governments are in place. Now you're going to say, the government is the one who are letting these people take all this stuff out without signing up. How can they do that? Just think. The president is in his office and he got a bunch of cronies that's gonna come and say, okay, let them take all this stuff out the port. Now all the port workers is in the port, all of the people that gotta do, all of the people that gotta deal with signing and the tax people that dealing with signing goods and services gonna just be quiet. Not in this day and age. Maybe some years, 20 years ago or 30 years ago, you might get one or two in the Congo area where the CIA was coming to disrupt the local government so they could deal with the different chiefs. Maybe. But it's nothing like they can exploit all that material out of the country that they need to make a profit. You know how much big a ship is? Got to travel from one Western country back to Africa. Do you know how much the goods would have to be valued for that to be even feasible? I think you guys got it all wrong. Nobody's up digging up gold and sneaking it into out of the country. That's nonsense. We need to stop thinking like that. African resources are not being depleted by the Chinese or anybody else. That's nonsense. Africa is in serious crisis, debt crisis. That's a new one. The former U.S. Secretary of State came into Africa, started telling everybody, watch out for the Chinese. They're going to put you in predatory debt. I think he made that up. Predatory debt? There's no country in the world that even comes close to the amount of debt the United States has. If any country is in a debt crisis, America is the one. So unless an African country can get close to that kind of debt, trillions and trillions of debt, so much of their GDP in debt, personal debt, credit card debt, please. Africans ain't even dealing with credit cards. 90% of Africans don't deal with credit cards. Oh, what's up, O'Shea? I had been texting you on Facebook. I hope you got my message. Anyway, this idea of a debt crisis, Africa is rising. In order for a country to rise quickly, it must accumulate debt so that it can gain the necessary things it needs to move quickly. And America knew this, the IMF and the World Bank knew this, and that's why they stifled Africa for about 10, 15 years. But African countries, they said, forget it, especially after WikiLeaks. No way they're going to deal with the IMF and the World Bank on major issues. That's why they were happy when the Chinese knew they had a deal when they saw what Western was doing with Western banks were doing with Africa. So this African idea of being in debt crisis is nonsense. Okay, you want to get all these statistics? They're going to be telling you Africa's in serious debt. This is all Western propaganda. You've got to be in debt in order to generate a business. You've got to get a bank loan. A bank loan is debt. So how are you going to not get debt and then build up your country? Surely, it's if you got to have somebody that's going to be a willing lender that's going to take your debt and then do the right thing with it. And America was not, and the World Bank and the IMF were not the ones. Go Google them, you see they was just terrible. Now, meanwhile, the Chinese, after Congo had its, had its recent peaceful election and transfer of power, Chinese came and restructured the loan. You understand what I'm saying? That's another thing. Restructuring a loan. If the loan is being difficult to be paid back, the lender can restructure the loan, and this is what countries do. You don't not pay the loan, you just restructure it so that you can continue to be paid. The country ain't gonna jump up and disappear. It's gonna be standing right there. So why not restructure the loan? Loans are going to go for years. It's not a personal loan, it's a country-to-country loan. So countries can benefit down the line. It's not gonna be paid off in somebody's lifetime. It can continue. Yeah? Like Zambia. Zambia has been doing business with the Chinese since the 1960s. I don't see the Chinese taking over Zambia, although they did say they were going to take over their electric company. That was a lie, and it didn't happen. So this idea of restructuring the debt, that African countries are in debt crisis, that's nonsense. Most of the Western countries are in a real debt crisis, and that's going to play out its hand very soon, as well as where the United States is now trying to deal with China and trick China into forcing their hand to balance out the trade budget, as if General Motors, McDonald's, and all these other Apple and all these other countries are not in China making big billions. So when they say, when they say that the Chinese debt is and American trade is unequal with China, they're not putting in the part about the profits that Apple is making in China. They're not putting in the profits that General Motors is making in China. Big money, far more than the trade deficit that they have with China. They're not talking about that. They're not adding that into the equation. And this is why I say America needs to get its stuff together. And you should not be listening, as a black man, you should not be listening to that nonsense that they put on the news. It's always going to be in America's favor and not in Africa's favor, but it's all mixed up and twisted. It's like they think about the employment rate. Most of the time, people talk about Trump will tell you the employment rate is at the lowest levels, and then people come back on TV and say, but that's not the real rate. What do you mean that's not the real rate? It's get the real rate. You see, we already know that most of that stuff is propaganda, but when it comes to Africa, we quick to spill it out of our mouths before we even do the research to realize that that stuff's not true. Number 4, there's too much corruption in Africa. Okay, there's corruption in Africa. You get a politician here that did something, put some money away. You get a businessman there, did a corrupt deal, you see. But you ain't got the kind of level of corruption, the Enron. Dare I say it, the 9/11 type of corruption. If people don't know the story about 9/11, you should check it out. We're not talking about that kind of corruption, no. America's corruption is institutionalized in the system. This thing of child support, taking father out of how the government gonna get involved with family business, with family affairs? Nowhere else do they do that. You know what I'm saying? It's horrible. But the level of corruption is institutionalized in America and is propagandized. They put on top of the ceiling. You see what I'm saying? So we as a black man, you know, we do something here and they say the woman left the man because the man cheated on her. And she took the kids and left. And the man said, no, I didn't do it. And then the woman files for child support, and then the man cries foul. And then what did they say? The nigga must have done something. You know, you hear the guy getting handcuffed, put in the police car, put in jail. What happened? The nigga must have did something. You see what I'm saying? That is the mentality. So we don't even catch a break. That's all. You can all line that up with corruption. We don't even catch a break in the U.S. Even if it's not you, you're trying your best to put your best foot forward. And then another guy messes up, and then they look at you like you with him. You see what I'm saying? So corruption, I won't go deep into it, but in Kenya, they just created but in 2010, they're fighting corruption in African countries. So to say like it's corruption in Africa, like nobody's doing anything about it, that's not true either. If you look at the amount of what work is going on in Africa, governments are doing to curb the corruption that they have, you'd be saying bravo. Instead, petty corruption is there, but damn, it's not petty corruption in every country. Wherever you are, somebody gonna try to take advantage of you. How many times you got scammers come up to you, or scammers call you on the phone, try to get you in some shady deals? So this is, I think, let me see, sure. Compare the corruption in the U.S. Over here, it's baked into our society. Thank you. Exactly, Ruth. That's exactly right. And that's what I'm trying to say. I went to court, and the shit was in the court. The judge is looking at me in the court, telling me, don't talk, you can't do, you know. And what it's like you what do you mean don't talk? You see what I'm saying? So yeah, they can get away with that. You know, because that's all part of corruption. We go to court and then you can't even get a decent chance to talk when you're supposed to be able to talk. You can't get a decent lawyer unless you got money, and if you don't, you're in more trouble. And plea dealing is also another one where they come and tell you, I know you're innocent, but if you get convicted of, they're going to convict you of this, and if you plead to a lesser charge, that one can get you off. And so there we are. That's all corruption. So don't talk about African countries as about being corrupt. Where you are is the most corrupt place if you're in America. Number 5, the African leaders are crooks. Okay, how? How can as many multi-partyism is all over Africa today? So how can that be the case? They watching each president like a hawk. Look at poor Museveni in Uganda is being, they're working him over. You know what I'm saying? They don't want him in. They don't want him in. The opposition is there. The opposition can be very powerful, especially African opposition. Look at Julius Malema in South Africa. Babutu days is over. Okay, get up to date. You're still talking outdated information. No leader can be corrupt and just be corrupt like billions and billions of shillings. Now you're gonna hear them things like, okay, President Kenyatta is now the leader of the Bank of England, blah blah blah, stole billions. That's just propaganda sound bites, and you need to realize that when you see that, it stops to make you look, because they want you to have they give you a negative impression about Africa, and then they reinforce it with these soundbite propaganda stories that when you read the headline, it's like, oh, but if you go into the story, you see that the headline had really nothing to do with what the story is talking about. Number 6, Africans all want to come to the U.S. This is another one. Why should I think about Africa when all the Africans trying to come to America? No, that's not true. If you look at the number of Africans in America, the number is very small compared to the 1.2, probably 1.4 billion Africans. No. Okay, so you're saying, oh, many of them are stopped by the embassies when they try to come in. America blocks most of them and only takes in so many. No. What America does is interview each and every African to see if they can qualify or have money enough to bring their wealth into America. Because today is different than before. Back in the 80s and 90s, they were letting in poor Africans to come in and work in menial jobs. America no longer needs that. They make the visa fees so high, only children of rich Africans or high middle income Africans can afford to even come. And when they show their information to show that they have enough money, they'll let them come, because they can let them come here and then they can be funded, and then their money can be also funded into the United States. If you're going for a visa in America, all you got to do is just think about how you would be bringing benefits and money into America, put your paperwork accordingly, and then you'll get a visa every time. So don't think like all Africans are coming. You must understand that most Africans from a young age are watching these Hollywood movies, and they're at a very impressionable age, and that is when they decide, oh, I want to come to America. I mean, I'm watching TV when I'm a little kid, and then a Disneyland commercial comes on TV, and then, wow, I got to go to Disneyland, and I can't stop. I take a beating. My mother tell me to be quiet. I'll take a beating and keep on talking. Mom, I want to go to Disneyland. Gotta take me to Disneyland. I went to Disneyland nine times when I was young. My mom finally had to just go ahead and take me because of that goddamn commercial. So if you can imagine how many major movies that come out and these other small movies that come out about America, they clean the streets. They all driving nice cars. They all got the best suits on, hairstyles. Women is booming. That is all brainwashing the African to say, I want to go see. Even my own daughter, Dad, I know you don't want me to go, but I just got to go and see for myself. That's how thick the brainwashing is. Take away that? No. And then America, check it out for yourself. America does not keep the statistics on how many Africans return. They tell you how many come. They won't tell you how many leave. So, no, all Africans are not coming. And then when you go ask any African, what's your end game in America? They ain't going to tell you, I want to be in America and live in America and have a home and drive cars in America. No, they're going to tell you, I want to make enough money so I can send the money home to build my house so that I can leave this place and go live out my life in my own country. They ain't changing that once they get to America. You people is rude and mistreat Africans and foreigners. No, they ain't thinking about staying there hardly at all. So the idea of Africans going come to America and live in. No, that's nonsense. America, and we blacks ain't got no money, so what we got to offer them? You understand what I'm saying to you? So number 7, Africa doesn't have a strong military. Now I saw this on TV, on the YouTube. The guy talking about he won't come to America. He won't come to Africa because Africa don't have a strong military to take care of itself. Okay, African military for sure, I would have to agree, are not strong when you compare them to the United States, Russia, China, and the rest of them, Pakistan. But when you get down to like the 13, 14 military countries, when you rate them, like number 10, number 12, number 14, that's Africa. Nigeria ain't joking. Kenya definitely ain't joking when it comes to the military. So nobody can beat the superpowers like China and the United States, and these ones. But anybody else, they gonna have some help. And these are what these militaries are designed for. Nobody's gonna spend the amount of money that America spends, and the amount of money America spends is forcing Russia and China to also beef up their military. But trust me, the West know better than to come into Africa, because you can bomb a country, you can level it like they did in Libya, but you ain't gonna go jump in there with no troops. People gonna eat you alive. And definitely you ain't gonna do that in Africa, not today. No, they couldn't do it back in colonial days. You gonna come up and set up a shop, and then every African you see, you don't know if he's for you or against you. That's what happened with the Mau, with the Land of Freedom fighters in Kenya. You didn't know who they was. That 1 minute they're watching your kid rocking him, and the next minute they cut that kid's throat. What can you do with that? You look around, you see you surrounded, and white people are only 7% of the world population. Let me repeat that. White people are only 7% of the world population. Now I know they don't want to. I know they don't like that, and I don't hate white people, but I'm just saying, all that stuff is propaganda. They put that on TV to make it look like the numbers is more. They got more power. You ain't gonna see no 300,000-400,000 white people with guns, soldiers. No, they don't have that number. They don't have those numbers. They got to propagandize the blacks and the Mexicans to beef up their numbers. Gaddafi is a bad man. That's what they said. Can you imagine? Now, how did they say that? They could do propaganda. Gaddafi saw that before he died, got into a Land Cruiser, got up on the sunroof, and drove through Tripoli, waving at the people. And everywhere he went, the people was ecstatic. Yay, yay, my leader, my leader, my leader. Now, but people hate him in this country. That's all propaganda. That was all propaganda. And anyone can go and research it and see. They brought in people from the outside to take over Libya. ISIS and these people, they shipped them out of Iraq, where they was there, had nothing to do, and then brought them into Libya, paid them to go in and disrupt the country with an offer that they were going to give them the land. And they settled in there, and with their devilish ways, they started enslaving the Africans. Well, the Africans now no longer go there. You know what I'm saying? They ain't going to take long before they realize if that place is bad. So you're going to, so this all nonsense. So these are things that I'm saying that we have the problems with. If we're going to do some talking on the chat line, let's talk positive about Africa. Let's talk about the positive things and stop talking about the negative things, because the majority of the negative things are all based and rooted in propaganda lies. So this is Amin Ra, coming to you from Mombasa, Kenya. It's been raining all day. That's rare here. And from wherever you are, I would expect you guys to put some comments in there. Please like and subscribe to my channel. We're no longer using the wave anymore. The wave cut us off. I don't know. I tried to find out what was going on, and I called them. I emailed them. They refused to send me anything. But then they were sending messages to anybody that tried to support the channel. They were sending them a really note saying, "Well, the number is bad, and investigating as if I'm somebody that's a criminal. But of course, we also have haters out there. Immediately, the haters could have just called in and did whatever they needed to do to make sure that the number that I put up was blocked. Okay, thank you for that. I'm gonna still give out the information. We'll find another way to do the supporting, and then we'll continue from there. So the fight continues. I'm not daunted at all. I expect nonsense like that. But like I said before, we can't keep doing this if we're not being supported. And some of you have told me you want to support me, and I really appreciate that. I'm going to look for another money transfer system. There are so many out there that are not based in the United States, and then we'll do it like that. But for now, this is Amara. I'm signing off. Peace.